Good morning, Mr. Chair. Join with me, George Stoke, Assistant County Administrator. Join with me is Mr. Tom Lanahan, he's the CEO.
Executive Director, sir.
Executive Director. Once again, I get a title wrong at the dais here. I'll try and be brief but brilliant and help guide you through our proposal process. On October 26th, Brightline issued a request for proposal for a potential station site on the Treasure Coast. On November 7th, this body directed staff to move forward with submitting a proposal for the consideration of two locations, the fairgrounds in downtown Stewart. Through a process, staff has determined that the only site that could allow for the proposal that meets the criteria set forth in the RFP is the courthouse location. This location offers two major benefits. The first one being that the county has complete control over the property, which is a requirement of the proposal. The fairgrounds still currently has a lease, so we do not retain that complete control. The second being that the county has city support financially and administratively with the site. As of yesterday, the city did approve a interlocal agreement. Thank you, sir. And our county attorney will be talking about that. At this time, I'm going to, if you hand me the mouse, please. I'm going to reveal for you the site plan. It's a part of the board. Oh, maybe there we go. I forgot I did it. So just to give you some, I guess, geographic, the right side of the picture is facing north. The square buildings. Now, the building complex here is obviously the Morton County Courthouse. The center kind of hexagonal looking is the Stewart Water Tower. To reference it, this would be the lumber yard, and this over here, this box here would be the Ernst & Produce stand, and then this green area is the Sailfish Ballpark. The site can, there are basically three elements that go along with the site. The first one being the parking garage, which is currently illustrated. It can be, the RFP requires a minimum of 200 spots. Our fine folks at Treasure Coast Regional Planning have designed a parking garage that's approximately 451 spots based on, building the largest thing possible in that site. One of the requirements that the county had, because this is currently a parking lot that was, I don't know as much the detail of the background of the parking lot, but it is a parking lot that has 169 spots. When you take into account the parking that is currently underutilized in this triangle parcel, the county has worked in the ILA for a net result of 54 spots, thus reducing to a net zero loss on parking. And we are working with the city on various parking solutions, and we'll come back before this body as well as the city on those solutions. The other component is the actual station itself, where the hand icon is. The station is approximately 10,000 square feet. It's no higher than a two-story building. However, the site does need to be raised approximately 4 feet for the smooth transition from the platform to the actual rail line. The rail line proposal looks to Brightline in the county as well as on the station for a 50-50 per our settlement agreement. The rail does clear Confusion Corner and MLK, so it does meet the rail siting guidelines. The nice thing is, thanks to the insight from Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, we will not have to do any type of construction work on Confusion Corner. I know that was a bit of a issue with the community and getting around town with that. And the third rail is on the east side. So this is a different type of station than the one that you see in West Palm Beach, which loads from the center. This actually loads from the east side of the tracks, both northbound and southbound trains. Some of the questions: total cost. Staff approximates the range of the total cost between $40 and $60 million. $30 million for the parking garage, which is going to be the responsibility of the city, and $30 million for the site, station, and rail work, which will be according to our settlement agreement, will be split between the county and Brightline. However, staff is currently applying for RAISE and CRISI grants. I don't know what those acronyms stand for, both on the federal and state level. Staff believes that this could reduce the approximate cost of the station and everything associated with it by 80%. Staff is currently drafting a RAISE application for design for $8.4 million and analyzing what the match criteria will be, either between 0% and 20% for match criteria based on the fact that this station location is located in a federal qualified census tract for a community that is economically endangered. So when you break down, we believe we can, as staff, get the cost for the station and the parking garage and everything would be approximately $3 to $6 million for the city and $3 to $5 million for Brightline and the county. All those grants, as we apply for them and come to you, we would update and come up with the actual how the split is. I want to hand off to our county attorney to discuss the interlocal agreement, which has been handed out, and then I do need to come back and seek for authorization for 2 items. With that, I'd like to hand it off to the county attorney.
Thank you, George. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Sarah Woods, County Attorney for the record. Before you, you'll see an interlocal agreement regarding the joint proposal between the city and the county for the train station and the parking garage. I want to say at the outset that for those people who have forgotten about our settlement with Brightline in 2018, the reason we're here today, that we have a seat at the table, is due to Martin County settlement with Brightline, which required construction of a train station either in Martin or St. Lucie County within 5 years of starting the rail service between Miami and Orlando. So it's easy to forget that we're here because of you all, because of your settlement, and that is why they're here. The interlocal basically is a way of providing Brightline with the RFP, responding to the RFP and showing the cooperation between the city and the county to get the station. I won't go through all of it, but the high points are the county agrees to convey the city. It's a parking lot that is located behind the courthouse. It runs along Flagler. There's an aerial with a depiction of that. And again, this is the blueprint for entering it. This doesn't bind you in any way. It just agrees that it sets forth how we would go about providing our proposal to Brightline by the city. We've agreed, the city has agreed, because we would lose the parking lot, they've agreed to provide 54 parking spaces for public use within a quarter of a mile from the courthouse. And again, this is the number of parking spaces that we're losing from that back net loss of parking spaces because of the conveyance of the proposed site. It does set forth that we agree these spaces can be street parking as well as parking behind the water treatment facility on Stitman. The city, once we convey the property, the city is able to then enter into a long-term lease agreement with Brightline for the construction and operation of the project. As you all well know, in our settlement agreement, we have a specific provision that says that Martin County, if asked, would pay 50% of the construction costs. So now in this agreement, we're affirmatively saying that pursuant to the settlement agreement with Brightline, the county agrees to pay 50% of the construction costs of the station. For the city agrees to pay for the construction costs of the parking garage necessary to meet the criteria for the RFP. We agree in the following paragraph to jointly apply or to cooperate in applying for federal state grants to offset the project. As you may recall, in our settlement agreement as to the station, Brightline and the county agreed to evenly split any grant to reduce our, because we're doing a 50-50 split. So any grants that come in that reduce the costs of the station, they would be proportionately reduced. We agree that any grants that come in for the parking garage would go to the city because we're not contributing to that portion. And we also just have some general language that we agree that will make reasonable efforts to file for any and all grant applications whenever possible. And that's really the gist of it. Again, this is really a basis for our agreement with the city. And of course, if we were so fortunate as to have the award of this site, then of course all of the nuts and bolts of that agreement would come back to you for approval for all of that. But we're just submitting that RFP. And again, as George said, with this agenda item, we're not only asking for authority to submit the RFP our response to the request for proposal to Brightline, but also for approval of this interlocal agreement. And as George mentioned, this was approved last night by the city of Stewart. So you're the final approver. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for anybody? Commissioner Hurd?
Yeah, do all the parking fees go to Brightline?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that negotiable?
Yeah.
Don't believe so.
We can negotiate.
Yeah.
I don't know what the success of those negotiations would be, but in the RFP, they do ask for 200 spots, and in other stations, they use that revenue to operate and maintain the parking garage. And I will say at the other parking garages, the rate of parking is probably sub-market. It's a little bit lower than some of the other surrounding markets. I think for the West Palm, they have parking rates for as much as $6 a day.
Wow, that's the reason I asked was because I talked to some people who paid over $30 a day to park in West Palm Beach. So that makes it kind of important to be able to negotiate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, there's a great variety in what they charge for parking. There's you can get it for $5 a day bundled in with a train ticket. I think if you go out and do it, independently, you're just parking there, or you didn't tie it with your ticket, the rates can be different, and it has varied. I've paid all different rates there.
Okay.
And I would also like to add, Mr. Chair, that the rates are also very susceptible to what's available around it. So in some markets where there's a proliferation of a lot of free parking, I notice their rates are much lower.
Yeah.
So I would say it's negotiable, but it also is a driving force based on market.
Okay. I agree with this in principle, but I'm a little bit reluctant to give full-throated support, mostly because of number 4, pursuant to the aforementioned settlement agreement with Brightline, the county agrees to pay 50% of the construction costs of the train station. In principle, that works, but if we don't obtain the grants that we anticipate receiving, where's the escape clause for us? Can we put in a not to exceed amount? I don't want to, I would be fine with approving a $3 million contribution. I would not be fine with approving a $10 million contribution.
So as I understood it and kind of had said to the city last night, Mr. Chair, this is the first process of where we put in for the RFP. It's an actual proposal. Then they will either shortlist or select us or someone else, I suppose, as the winner. At that point, the details get more hammered out. We meet with Brightline. We have a design engineering grant request in that we can harden those numbers. But I think, like everything, as soon as we kind of renegotiate the elements of an agreement, in this case, all three parties would be a party to that agreement. And at any point, there would be abilities to, I guess, pull the ejection switch based on the estimated cost or based on changes in conditions that our legal staff would negotiate for us.
And also, just to add on, our settlement agreement currently provides, it did in 2018, that let me find it. The construction of the station is subject to payment of 50% of the station construction cost by the county and/or municipality in which the station is located if such payment is requested by Brightline. It's very clear, Mr. Lanahan is the expert on the RFP, that they're looking for, that this would be done at minimal cost to Brightline to locate this station there. We just happen to be fortunate with a 50% cap on it, but if we don't pay the 50%, then, the station wouldn't wouldn't be constructed. So I don't read it as an obligation, a binding obligation, but we're making that commitment because we've already kind of made that commitment in the settlement agreement.
Okay.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I two points to make there. The first being that this is a request for proposal, and it is competitive. You know, putting your best foot forward is I think important. And then the second part is looking at the Boca Raton example, which the RFP specifically brings up, the Boca Raton station. We've designed this very similar to that scenario. We think it's actually a little bit better layout than they have, but it is designed like that. And Boca was able to receive grant funding support for, I want to say it was 80% of the cost of that project. Very, very substantial. These are the kinds of things that the federal grant programs are written towards. Other people try and make something fit. This is really kind of like what they're geared for. And the city's obligation, which they were the partner with Brightline on that one, ended up being pretty minimal for that project. So just to kind of put that into your thoughts.
And Commissioner, the reason why I believe we will be successful in the grant is because on Friday, our federal government announced $8 billion dedicated to high-speed rail, of which $3 billion is going to Nevada and California. That leaves $5 billion on the table for us. Also, I think we will do better than Boca Raton, I believe, because this track is located in a qualified census tract. And our grant staff and myself have quite a bit of experience, thanks to ARPA and CARES, with basically highlighting the QCT and the importance that this brings to the community. So I think we can actually do better than 80-20, but I don't want to sit here and commit to that. So,
Yeah, I do too.
Thanks.
Ms. Woods.
I neglected to publicly thank the city manager and the city attorney of the city of Stewart. They really were so cooperative and helpful, and this really was a true product of collaboration between the city and Martin County. So I want to thank them.
Mrs. Woods, you beat me to the punch. I also want to take the time to thank other county staff as well. And this is going to sound a little weird, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Brightline because we did have a very good meeting with them on, I think it was November 29th. It was right after Thanksgiving, and they were very instrumental in helping us craft the final document that we will be submitting to them with your approval next week, as far as looking at economic data and what are the things that we needed to focus on, because really, when you look at their RFP, it's a very broad scope, and they were able to help us to define where they wanted us to look. So that was Mr. Kronberg and Ms. Soul and their staff did an excellent job at helping us with the rail and what they were actually looking for, which we think can give them a better proposal.
Good. Commissioner Smith.
So I'll continue on that theme and thank the City Commission as a whole. I think one of the things that is important to this entire conversation, and at least from what I've heard feedback from, is that the collaboration between the city and the county was super important to Brightline, and certainly having that partnership on this item goes a long way. And so we have one of our city officials in our audience, and thank you, Campbell, for your support, but your support as a whole. I think the message that the county sent to the city and the city sent to the county was that we were all in on this, and that makes a big difference when agencies and people are looking at a project, no matter what it is, to have that kind of support. So with that, I would move approval of staff's support and recommendation for the RFP. Unless you need some changes, George.
I need a couple changes to that, but I can hold until I know you had a light up there.
Mr. Donaldson.
Commissioners, just wanted to point out that we're recommending that we're only submitting for the City of Stewart location. I know you'd suggested us looking at the fairgrounds. There's several reasons why that one doesn't work, and of course one of them has to do with our lease with the Fair Association, how that transitions, and then more importantly, it really has to do with how the county can can transfer properties under county rules opposed to the city. So that in our conversations with the Brightline, it's most important that our partnership with the city, and just wanted to reemphasize that we're all in on this site and not proposing two applications to Brightline.
So, Mr. Chair, I would have written this down, but because of the ILA we've held, so I need three things. Staff's recommendation is three things. One, approve the interlocal agreement with City of Stewart. Two, approve staff to submit proposal for courthouse location to Brightline, Florida. And the third is to authorize county staff to work with the city to initiate a conditional use process for approval within the city of zoning and the city land zoning issue. So that we can get that process started, so that it's going at the same time as whether or not Brightline is deciding whether we are the selected site, so that we can trim a couple months in time off at that point.
So, Mr. Chair, my motion plus the inclusion of George's three highlighted items and the notation relative to the fairground site.
Seconder agree?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chair.
Thank you.